Okay, we are this morning at the logging exhibit in the Beothuk Park in Grand Falls, Windsor, and we're going to take you through this museum. Pat Mulroney, and Pat come down on his day off now to take us through all the stuff there because he knows a lot more about it than what I do. So I'm going to give it all over to Pat now. He's going to do the talking for us.
Well, right now we're in the falling shack. That's where the saw faller would keep the saw sharpened for the men, you see. This fellow here, he represents the saw faller. And this is the saw falling bench. And this is where he'd file his saws, you see. You know, with the buck saw file. And that's the, you notice that I have stuff over this so children won't get caught or anything, you know. Now this is a saw filing vise, but it's for the crosscut saws. Here you see. Now this is a real old-fashioned one. This is the crosscut. And this one came out later years. It's called a Simon saw. It's a two-man saw, the same as this one. And they would, you know, she would push out the saw just a lot quicker than this one would, because this one would jam a lot, you see, because the teeth are all alike, you see. So when this one came out, we were in the modern days. Yeah. Now this short-handed saw, that's when they were building the dams. The company was building the dams, you see. And under here, underwater, there were some large sticks that had to be cut off, you see. So you take this one because she's a good 3 foot long, you see. And sometimes you'd have your hands getting wet, but you didn't mind that, you see. You had to cut off the long timber down the bottom.
All right, yeah.
And this one here, this is an ice saw. Now in the 1920s, well before that too, but in the 1920s the company had one on a set of sleds with a motor on it and a 9-foot blade, and she used to cut ice this way, you see, on a set of sleds.
Oh yeah.
And then during the war, she cut a channel between Phillips Head and Wiseman's Cove, and 400 soldiers placed a submarine cable. That's during the Second World War. Now this is what they call a short frame saw. The fellows used to make those, you know, like your grandfather, for sure, he made it, you know. So we could get the blade, you see? And this will cost you 60 cents, the blade. But you made off this with a turnbuckle. And then we had the 36. The 36-inch saw was shorter than this one. So we used to have to use a rod, a 4-foot rod. So after a few years, this one came out. That's the 42. So, you know, when we saw off a jump, we just put the end here and make a little dab, so you didn't have to carry the rod anymore. Oh, this one was the measurement of the 4-foot jump you were cutting, you see. Now this one, you wouldn't see too many of those in the lumber woods. But what they used to do is like chop down, get round sticks on the floor and just chop them down, you see. But this adze was used mostly for shipbuilding.
Oh yeah.
Building schooners and everything, you know. Now this one, we used to call him a double bitter. As a double bladed axe, he'd have one blade sharpened for chopping down the tree, you see. And then you'd have this one for trimming, taking the limbs off.
All right, yeah.
Now as you gentlemen came here, you passed by the pit yard.
Yeah.
And there's a pit saw there to be a man on top of the log and a man on the bottom. And that's the way they used to saw lumber, to build their houses and build their boats years ago. So this is called a hewing axe or a broad axe. So before they put the log, you couldn't put a round log up there, see, because it couldn't stay there. So the old timers would just chop it down, you see, and lay it on the bed. And then you get the ochre and a piece of twine, fishing twine, and then you make a mark up on top and a mark in the bottom, so you keep your saw straight, you see? For sawing your lumber, inch lumber, or 2-inch plank or whatever. That's called a hewing axe. Now for boring the big, you seen a big boom log over there in the pit yard?
Yeah.
This is a 4-inch auger. That's for, now what kind of arms do them people have?
That's right, yeah.
But you know, once she's sharp and she's cutting good, you know. Now this one, was used on the river. Any big logs was too heavy for one man, you know. So they would, one man here and one there, and just drag the log out to the water, you see. And this one here is the peavey. Some people call them a cant hook. That's for rolling big timber, you see. Well, we all know what this one is. This is the pole hook. And that's, if you're in the bush alone and you got a pole hook, it's as good as another man. I'd be lost without the pole hook.
Yeah.
So this is the falling shack. He had his bunk, he had a stove here, and this is where he slept because he was up 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sharpening the saws for the men. The only time he left here was to go over in the cookhouse to eat. So then he'd come back again. Like I say, he'd be up till daylight some mornings because he had the saw ready for the men, you see?
That's right, yeah.
You know. Very small camp because there'd be bunks here for the scalers, and any company officials came up, they would stay here. There were 6 or 8 bunks in the forepeak. So, you know, this is only just a very small camp. There'd be 48, 60 men, 50 men in a logging camp, you see. And this is a little knot here that when they get cramps in their feet, they roll it back and forth with your foot. And the cramp would automatically go away. And this is your mattress. That's the first thing you did when you came to the camp. Now, my boy, go out and pick your boughs. That's it. So mostly every Saturday, you know, they would change them.
Change their mattress.
Change their mattress. Some fellows wouldn't bother. Some fellows you just sleep on the lungers, on the round sticks.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Yes, they didn't mind that stuff. This is another saw like we've seen over in the falling shack, and the Simon saw. And the hames for going to horses, you know, part of the, when you're harnessing up your horse. This is a camp foreman. His name was Billy Pope. A lot of fellows work with him. I guess a lot of fellows from your home work with him. Possibly, for sure, your grandfather.
Yeah.
Those are old axes. Those are telegraph wire cutters. Like those phones are out over 100 years. So they would, for cutting the wires, you see. Now this is a fire compass. It's only part of it there because this used to be up on a tripod, and they would have a man over in the hills in the summertime, weather like this, you know, just in case of fire. So anyway, he would, if he seen smoke between, say, Grand Falls, Bishop Falls, you know, so he would look through here and pinpoint there's numbers there, 350 degrees north or whichever.
Yeah.
So he'd phone down then because he had one of those phones up in the camp and let the company know handy about where the fire was at so the men could go in with the water tanks on their back. Not like today with the planes.
No, I guarantee you.
No, this is called a dam rod. In the early times, this is in 3 sections. You take it down to the dam in the morning and see as the water was dropping or rising, just from taking the depth width of the water, you see. And this is another broad axe. And there's fellows could chop a log 4 ways, square block of timber, 8 by 8, 12 by 12, and when they were finished chopping it, you know, then they take the blade this way. And you could buy a piece from a planer. It's identical. That's the kind of axemen they were.
Yeah.
Oh, they were wonderful people. This is a double bitter again. And this is the boom chain, see? Those big booms over there that you've seen in the pit yard. Well, you join the chain to come up to here, see? And go into there.
Yeah.
And the reason why this little plug is here, because if you didn't have the plug there, you see, you know, the boom's moving all the time with the tide, the chain eventually would wear through, you see. So you just hammer down a couple of little plugs in each boom, you see. And it's the curry comb or the horse comb, whichever you mind to call it. We always call them a horse comb. Some people call them a curry comb. This is a saw set. That's for setting your saw, you know, opening up your teeth. Make sure she sinks right down through, you see.
Oh, yeah.
This is a kerosene oil can. You can always go and get a gallon of kerosene oil. This little rule here is called a dog beater. Now, you never harmed a dog because a dog was a part of your livelihood. There's inches on this, you see. It's just for measuring, taking the width of lumber. 6-inch lumber, 10-inch lumber, 9-inch lumber, just for measuring lumber.
I'm glad you told me that. I was there looking at that just now before you came. I figured it was a dog beater for teaming the dogs with.
No, no. Now this is a wood dog. Well, they use that in the sawmills. See, because when you were pushing the saw bit, everything moved, right?
Yeah.
So say this is your log right here. So this javel it down there with the pole of your axe and into the saw bit, and then you could push it and keep your log from rolling. See, the log would be stationary.
Yeah.
Wouldn't move on you. And the picaroon. Used to use those on the river drives.
Yeah.
That's the wood that's up on the banks. You know, just. And this is the ordinary axe and the ordinary snowshoes. The draw knife. You men are familiar with the draw knife for peeling the logs. And this is a nice horseshoe. They put a few spikes in that, see, because some of those lakes were just like the glass, you see. So they put those on the horse, see, and that the horse wouldn't slip, see. And this here, like I was telling you about the chalk line box, like they use for, you know, taking the width of the logs over in the pit yard. See, this is ochre here, and that's the line, you see?
Oh, yeah.
So one fell on one end, the other fell on the other, and just flick it a couple of times. But they do the same thing on both ends of the logs, both sides of the logs, because the fellow in under had to see too, you see.
Yeah.
Because he was cutting. But the fellow was on top, he was only just taking up the saw. But the man was, just the weight of your arms is all according how, the secret is sharpening your saw. How you sharpen your saw.
That's right, yeah.
And, you know, just the weight of your arms, and she'd go in an inch and a quarter coming down, see? Because she's cutting good.
That's right, yeah.
But if you got something there, you know, oh, that's no good, see, like, kill yourself, see? This is a horse snowshoe.
That's something you don't see today very often.
No, sir, this is, now I got a book, I had a book come down from BC, and I got some pictures of the horses using the horse snowshoe, but they used blocks of wood. But the old timers, they used to use this, see, this is rope, and of course this was on down here. And right around here in the fetlock, this, you know, with the narrow bone here. So you put 2 half hitches around there, and you take your time, put on the 4 snowshoes. But you had to use half hitches because if you tied a granny knot and the horse went down on a stump, you were in trouble, you see. Especially if you never had your pocket knife or something, you see. But with a couple of half hitches, it's only just, you could do that with your fingers.
Yeah.
And, you know, 14, 16, 18 pound horse, you know, 100-pound horse, that he would walk, you know, just, of course, a horse is very supple. You know how a horse is walking, eh?
That's right, yeah.
So he wouldn't go down in a deep fall of snow. He wouldn't go down much further than you would with those snowshoes on there. But he'd go back and forth a couple of times, and then he starts to walk heavier, you see? And then your road is trampled down. Then you leave that road alone then for that night, and it freeze right hard, you know? And then the boys would take their horses and the next day. And now you had to dig out your landings.
That's right, yeah.
And then when you get down to your bottoms, that's where all the big wood was to, down the bottom, the white spruce and that.
Yeah.
Now get that up if you can. I've seen some fellows buy some powerful men, but pull them up on the sled like that. I used to find them old-fashioned hooks, pulp hooks, you know. They would bounce a lot.
Yeah.
And then after a few years after, they came out with this one here, see? You can screw it into.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
And this is a van box. After supper, the second hand to come out and boys, the van is opened. See, this was more like a little store for the supplies for the men, you see. You come out and say, well, I want to pack a target, and this fellow wants to plug a beaver, plug a jumbo, you know. And you get the stuff here for, with the horse, for the horses too, you know, the gall sap and colic drops and everything, you know. And you get writing paper, you get socks. We used to get a buy, you know, a scale day. We'd come down for the weekend, buy a pair of jeans, and you know, it was more like a little store. But on the scale day, everything came off, you know. Now in the old days, like when your granddad worked in the woods, he was getting 90 cents a cord. So he came to the 4 Peak Monday morning. Second hand was here, the old man. So he'd say to the old man, I want a saw blade. The old man would mark down 60 cents. Well, I got to have a couple of blankets to go on the bows, $2.08. I needs a couple of plugs of beaver, or whatever, you know, 32 cents, 2 plugs of beaver. And that's the way it was. The old fellows would turn around and chew the tobacco, you see, and then they would dry it and smoke it in the pipe, see. And they come, you know, like I say, they come to a camp in the early years, 90 cents a cord, $18 a month for your board. And if you were here 5.5 months or so, you brought home $108 or $96. That was it. And some of those men left all over the East Coast and had 8 and 10 and 12, excuse me, 14 children in family. But they survived because the women, the husband and the wife were buddies, see? Because when he left home, excuse me, when he left home, she would turn around and she'd take a little boat, some of the children, she'd go out, she'd catch enough codfish for the winter, you know, split it, salt it, dry it, and put it in the store for the winter. Then she'd say to the children, we're going at the gardens. So then she'd put in all the garden. Then she'd say to the little girls and that, well, we're going to shear the sheep. So she'd make up a couple of little things out of pieces of wood, like scissors, you know, just put a little dowel down to her hair, right? And she'd give them to the children. So the children, you know, just let on they're shearing the sheep, you see. But she'd shear the sheep, wash the wool, spin the wool, and knit the clothing for 14 children and for him. Then she'd say, well, my darlings, we got to cut the hay. So she'll take a scythe, and she'll go out and she'll cut the hay. Then the children get up in the loft and trample it all down. They'd have a lot of fun. So anyway, she'd say, well, Daddy will soon be home. So I think what we should do now, we'll go down in the woods and we'll see if we can get 200 or 300 turn of firewood. So she'll take a box saw with the children, and she may have a child or two in an oat sack on her back. Now we're talking about the early days.
That's right, yeah.
So she'd take a box saw and she'd saw down 200 or 300 turn of wood, and then she'd drag them out with a rope, her and the children. And the ones like sawed off here right square, and these, when she was hauling with a rope, they'd hook up in a rock or a stump, so she'd get the axe and turn it over and chop it out and don't make a nose hole. See, with the end of your axe, you put a hole right through it,
Yeah.
and she'd put a rope through it, and you're hauling it like a little sled. This is what she used to do.
Yeah. They work harder than they do today, eh? What do you guys?
Yeah, they were wonderful people. The women, my God, how hard they worked. They were left home. See, he went in the woods. Now, he had to cope with the lice and the dirt and the filth, you know, on the boughs, you know, because there was no bath facilities or anything, you know. But she went through something else because he had a camp. He had his supper. He had his breakfast. Look what she done when she got out of bed in the morning. And she had to wash the clothes for those children and everything. Some people come here from the United States, all over the world. I meet thousands and thousands of people. And they speak up, say, those poor men, you know, how hard they worked. You know, well, wish they did.
Yeah.
You take from daylight till dark with your nose in the moss, hard work. But I says, folks, don't forget who was left back home, because she did a lot of work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But she was the man of the house and the woman of the house too, I guess.
She was the man of the house and the woman of the house, you know. But like I say, you know, I'm very proud, very, very proud to be a Newfoundlander. I'm very proud when I'm talking to people from Russia, Germany, France, all over the world. I'm 8 feet high because I'm a Newfoundlander, and I'm very proud of our people. Very, very proud of our people. And they left the lice and the dirt, and then they went over in the trenches and fought in 2 wars. So to me, we got the best history in the world.
That's right.
I love old people. Just if I meet old people, I got to shake their hand because I know that they went through it. And this is why that I'm here, and I get school groups by the hundreds. Sometimes I have to go into schools and give little talks. I got to let those little children know where we all came from.
That's right.
Because I think what they learn in school is very little about our history. Because my daughter is 10 years old. She come home. She said, Dad, we're studying on Cuba. I don't want to hear talk of Cuba. I want her to know what her people done.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not worrying about Cuba.
That's true.
She should be learning about her own history.
Yeah.
We always had a doctor's box here, you see, in the forepeak. In case a man cut himself, there'd be iodine and bandages and that, you know, to go on a cut. But we fellas always use, you cut yourself, put the myrrh on there. Smack the myrrh on them. And this is a spoke shave. That's something similar to the draw knife, but that's for just fencing up wood, you know, just rounding it off. And calipers, they would here, and then they go back to the top, have a 14-inch stick or 20-foot stick or whatever, and they could tell you exactly how much board was in that log, you see, by just taking the measurement from the butt to the top.
Oh, right on.
No, exactly. See?
Yeah.
And the horse bit, and the horse bells. Now this is interesting here. I haven't got my glasses, have I? Now this is a hammer. This mill was situated at Black River in Placentia Bay, and its caretaker was Mr. Thomas Silk. It was built in 1897, closed in 1903, and burned down in 1920. Now this key is all that remained that used to open the doors of this mill, which was built in 1897. That's the original key. That's a very, very valuable artifact, you know. And this is the hammer that was found in the mill too, you see. Hammerhead next to it was also used in the mill during the same time period, 1897. So that's treasures, see. That is treasures.
Yeah.
And the old telegraph, just to go on the poles, you know.
Yeah.
Now this is we call them slippers. They're horseshoes, you know. But the blacksmith, he got to turn them up, see? You know, in order for slipping on ice and
Yeah.
you know. And that's the same thing there. And this is some old pictures. Now the boot scraper is when you come in the evening time, especially when it's raining, you know, and you're on the bogs and you're right to your knees in mud. You know?
That's right, yeah.
So you scrape off the mud before you come into camp, you see? And the old telephone, too short and long. That's what they used to use in the camp. Like you phone down to Skipper Levi Newhook's camp and say, Skipper, can you loan me a barrel of flour till we get the grub poured ashed out, you know? And the old block and tape. Well, those still represents the hewing axe, you know, and the broad axe.
Yeah.
But this is a very, very popular museum. This is...
It is. It's beautiful.
This
Beautiful.
is very popular. And this is a... Now sometimes in the logging camp, they would run short of kerosene oil. So you go out in the grub shed and you light up a piece of fat pork, and that would be the light. And as the pork is burning, the fat is dropping down. So then you get a piece of twine or a piece of Winsor. I don't know if you fellas know what a piece of Winsor is. Yeah, right on. Yeah. Sure, he's a newfie. You got to know what a piece of Winsor. And then you hang it over the side like a wick. And that would be, you know, another hour, half, 2 or 3 hours light. This is a stogger here for chinching in the moss. The old man in the forepeak yard, they always had a wash pan of their own, you see? A bit of soap and that. Now, this is a little long, bit of a long story if you want me to tell you about it.
Yes, tell us. If you don't mind, we don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind. When you go in on the haul off in the wintertime, see, all the wood was scaled. Every pile of wood was scaled by the scalers. And the old man had all the numbers there. He knew exactly. Right from the last stick, he knew exactly what was there. In each pile of wood, a cord and a half, 3 cord, 4 cord, cord and 3 parts. You know, he knew exactly. And some, like I say, some of the goat faces where you start on the end of a bog, about that wide, and about 10 feet high. That's what we call goat faces, where the wood was bad, you see. So anyway, say the 3 of us fellows are going in now, and we're going in on the haul off, so the old man is going to give us a horse each, right? There might be 20 horses in this camp, you know. So you got a horse, he got a horse, and I got one. So I can't read, and I can't write, and I can't count. See? So you comes in Monday morning, you know. Yeah, Pat, second hand will go over with you now and show you which horse is yours. Now you're responsible for that horse. In the evening time, we want when it's cold, nights, we want some blanket over him. We want some dry, we want some comb down, and we want some well looked after. You got, this is the old man now, I'm talking to you, see?
Yeah.
And you got to remember now that that animal is part of your livelihood.
That's right,
So the
yeah.
animal has to be looked after. So the old man says to you, well, I'm going to put you on number 9. See, that's the row of wood. Now there might be 140 cord on that road.
Yeah.
Now on every pile of wood on that road is a 9. Right?
Yeah.
So if you haul 3 piles today with your horse, then you had to haul the 3 9s, right?
Yeah.
So this gentleman comes in, and the old man said, I'm going to put you on number 10. Now there maybe 70 cord of wood there, maybe 55 cord, or 100 cord, you know. So this is where he uses his horse, on number 10. Now when he's finished hauling this pile of wood here, the last junk is on the sled, you know. He marks down number 10, right? That's the first pile. So I comes in. Oh, Pat boy, how you doing? Not too bad, sir. We're going to give you number 11. Now number 11 is very easy to make. It's only 2 strokes. I said, sir, 11, I don't understand what 11 is, sir. I don't know. Well, all you have to do, you'll see on your road down there, each pile of wood, there's 2 strokes. Number 11. Okay, sir. Then you go into the bunkhouse, you know, you're kind of confused. Now, he's worrying now. I'm worrying now because I don't know how to make that, see? So anyway, I says, okay, then, I says to myself, I'll make a twine tally. That's what I'll do. Won't fool me. I don't know how to make 11. I don't know how to say it, really. So you comes in the evening, passes in your numbers, number 9. Yes, well, you done very good today. You know, you haul, 7, 8 cord or whatever. He comes in, then I comes in, number 11. The old man is there, see? Right?
Yeah.
He's there now. He knows exactly every cord of wood, every pile. He knows because it's all in the book, because it's all scaled, you see. I comes in, I don't say nothing. Well, Pat, you're on number 11. Yes, sir, and I tried it, sir. I can't make that stroke, so I can't do it, sir. But I did this. I made a twine tally, sir. Oh, I see. And this one here is your first pile of wood, is it, Pat? Yes, sir. That's it. Then you go to the book. I'm on number 11. Cord and a half in that one. 2 and 3 parts in that one.
How do you tell?
Cord and a quarter. This is the piles of wood I'm taking off of the road, you see?
Yeah, but how do you know how many cores in that one?
Because the old man knows, because it's all the scaler's got a scale, see?
Oh, right on.
He knows.
Yeah.
He knows exactly, see? Yeah, 3 parts of a cord there. Yeah, cord and a quarter, 2 cord. And then, he says, Pat, boy, he said, are you abusing that animal or anything like that? What are you? I said, no, sir. There's no marks on the animal. He's not galled or he's not corked or anything, you know. Well, I'm not going to take your word for it now. I'm going over to the barn to check that animal. So he goes over and he checks the animal, you know, where he's not galled or anything, makes sure that he's not. Then he checks his 4 legs, makes sure he's not corked. That's cut now on a stump or anything.
Yeah.
Nope, no fine, no problem. So he comes back. That boy, just what you got to do? Just cut back a bit. Boy, that's a lot of wood you hauled with that animal today. That's a lot of wood, boy. You hauled just about 10.5 cord of wood today with that animal. Boy, take it easy. You know, it's not a machine you got there. It's an animal. Okay, sir. So I goes in. I takes it easy the next day. So anyway, I says, sir, are you finished with my twine tally? Yeah, go ahead, Pat. So I'll take my twine tally, and I'll do this, you see? And then I'll do this for the next day. So I can't read or write or count, but you can't fool me. It's down my watch pocket.
That's right.
Mother, what a night.
Yeah.
Yes, boy. But this is the table, you know, that the old man would make up his time and everything. The scalers would come here and they would make up all the wood and everything, so everybody get paid, you know. And this is where you carry down your saw blade. You know, you wouldn't have plastic around it, you know.
No.
You'd have a piece of fisherman's twine tied around it here, you know. The old birch broom. And this is a picture of a logging camp in 1911. That's just not very far from here, crossing the Trans-Canada, the golf course, and then was a place called the Boom Landing where the company used to yard up all their big booms. Years ago, they had a camp there, you see. See, because in 1909, the A&D company here in Grand Falls made the first roll of paper in 1909. So in other words, they had to have loggers in the woods to cut this wood and make the paper in the mill in order to make that first roll of paper in 1909. So they had the loggers in there pretty early. But the men from all over the East Coast, they built the mill. See? And then when the mill was finished, well, we got to live, so we go in the bush. Some men go back home fishing, you know. And a lot of people stayed here.
Yeah.
You know, this is Grand Falls. This is just about a city now, you know. But as Grand Falls, it wouldn't be here, only for our people from the outports.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
So the way you're talking, then you're originally not from Grand Falls either, are you?
Yes, I belong to Winsor.
Windsor. Oh.
Yeah. Yes, my brother went in the mill, and I went in the bush. He's out now with $1,200-$1,300 pension from the company because he worked with paper makers. I never got 1 red cent when I worked in the bush. Not a copper. Neither did your grandfather. Now your father works in the woods now. He might. They got something now for those men, you know.
Yeah.
But we're talking about hard work. The men today works hard. You know, you might say, well, the food in the lumber camps is excellent. This,
Yeah.
You can't give them enough because they got to use that chainsaw. The flies, the heat, the sweat. I mean, you take the logger. Company just barely gives them enough to get a few stamps. And here's the broom pusher down in the mill. That's the lowest paid man. He's a broom pusher. Sweeten up a bit of water, a bit of paper. $21 an hour.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
And your dad is in the woods today, sir. He's working hard.
I know, yeah.
And all the men work hard, you know. This place we're in now this is the cookhouse. This is the galley. You notice that the forepeak and the galley, see the old fishermen, when they came back, came in the lumber woods just about 100 years ago. They took those names in with them, you see, the forepeak from a ship
Yeah.
and the galley. And this is where all the food was cooked. What they call morning glory. This is a touting, you know, pancakes or whatever.
Yeah.
When I went to those, I never seen too many sausages.
No.
And this is where he put his bread to rise. Now, some cooks would make up a big batch of bread and have a pork barrel in here, you see, and lay the bread on the barrel. And then they'd have two little staves cut off down here in the bottom, so you could fit in a kerosene oil lantern. Put his lantern in here and turn it down low, and that'd be there all night. So when you get up in the morning, the bread was like this, see? The heat from the lantern.
Yeah.
This is, you know, things they measure in jugs, you know, from molasses, and some they use some for kerosene oil and things, you know, the flour sifter, sifting the flour. Most likely your mom had one.
Yeah.
Probably she still got one, you know,
Yeah.
sifting flour.
Shoot him still, right?
Yes, boy. Little meat grinder, grinding meat. A few fancy vegetables. Look, I'm a very poor wood carver. And this is duff boiler. Now that boiler, halfway's up, there's all holes up through. See, and you half full the bottom on with water, and the steam is going up through cooking the puddings and the duffs and that, see?
Oh, right.
This is what you call a duff boiler.
Yeah.
Those pots here, you know, you'd have beans in them through them and that, you know. So I went up to Millertown, to the lake, and I seen this big old pine stump there. I said, oh, that's a batch of molasses bread guaranteed. So I painted it over brown, and I made a little birch rind bark box there. So it looks okay.
Yes, it do. It looks pretty.
So we'll have lassie bread for supper. Keep the boys happy. This is the skillet, the frying pan, you see? That big one there.
Yeah. You get on.
This is where you hang up his dishcloths. He's going to put his Easter rise up here too, you see?
Yeah.
And you take into cookhouse. Every man sat in his own place. You weren't allowed to sit in another man's place. You weren't allowed to talk. You didn't, you know, well, I might say to you, well, pass me down the bread. But if you talked loud, he'd be there with the meat cleaver, see, cook. Boys, keep it down. Keep it down. He may come out and take the end off the table with the meat cleaver.
He was pretty strict.
Because and alcohol was strictly forbidden. There was no alcohol, you know, strictly forbidden. Now, I got to admit that I worked in camps where the cook used to have the privilege. See, boy, he had the molasses and the yeast cake. And we fellas could smell it, but it'd be only between him and the old man to get a drop. See, the home brew, eh?
Yeah.
You know, we knew, you know. But he had to know you pretty well before you got any. But alcohol, according to the company rules, alcohol was strictly forbidden. And like I say, every man sat in his own place. You didn't do any talking. Because you had 50, 60, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
And probably some fellows sitting up on this end of one of the tables say, well, you know, the cook he's not the best or something. And then away goes an argument, and you got 50, 60 men. You got a problem on your hands with Newfoundland loggers, I can guarantee you. The camp wouldn't last long.
No.
This is where the old man, the second hand, and any officials came up from Grand Falls, up from the paper mill. This is where they would eat, and the cooks would eat here too, you see. Now when the officials came up, there was always a bit of fresh bacon and eggs, ham. That was for those people. The boys were over there with the molasses in their tea, and that was it.
Yeah.
Molasses on your bread and the beans. You get the aroma of the bacon and the eggs go. That was it.
Yeah. You get the smell from it. That was all you was left.
And those little things here. See, this is only just a small camp, but this shows exactly how it was. And the artifacts that's in this camp was used in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Like your grandfather, possibly, or your dad could possibly use one of those mugs and that, you see. And this is what makes this museum, to me, very, very precious.
Exactly, yeah.
This is our heritage. And this we have to hold on to. We have to keep.
Exactly. The government don't take it from us.
I hope not.
No.
I hope not, sir. And this is the bread. Now they would make up the bread. Well, they make up the bread in this one. Sometimes they use a half a pork barrel to mix the bread.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes they make it in this one, let it rise in that one, you see? And in the lumber woods, the cook, he always had his own room.
Yeah. Just he don't cook in it.
Because in the, you know, he had to get up early in the morning, get breakfast ready. And the men were up pretty early, see why? And the cookies, they slept in there too. So you can see how large the room was, you see?
Yeah.
And this is the underwear. You call it bulletproof, because you wear that 6 or 8 months and never take it off. Pretty well bulletproof, I can guarantee you. And he's in there now, this sourdough Bill. It's the cook. But in the lumber woods, you never worked on Sunday. Sunday was the good Lord's day.
Yeah.
Never worked on Sunday. And that's why those people were so happy. They were living in dirt and lice and filth, but they were happy people. And that's why they were so happy. Why there's no happiness in the world today? Because Elvis is alive and God is dead.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because you go in a bunkhouse where there's 50, 60 men on a Saturday evening after work. You know, some fellow get a comb and a piece of birch bark and play a tune. Fellows up dancing, you know. Everybody telling stories. People were happy.
That's true, yeah. So, like a new fellow coming to the camp, what would he do now? Wait for everyone else to be seated to see where he could sit?
Well, the cookies, which you said, the cookies say that's your place there.
Oh, yeah.
And if he was there for 4 months or 3 months or 6 months, it was his place. You know, you had to have rules.
That's right, yeah.
And a good thing, too, where alcohol was strictly forbidden. Because wherever that's to, you know, especially where there's a bunch of men.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, because you take the things that happened, even in the IWA strike, you know, that was too bad, you know. You got to lose human life. You know?
Yeah.
It seems like that's it. For changes, somebody has to die, or some child has to die.
Yeah.
If you got a gravel road and your little child crosses the road, she gets killed, then you get the pavement.
Yeah.
It seems like a tragedy. Always has to happen.
That's right, yeah. We're
going to grub shed now, boys.
Huh?
I got nipped into that one, dog, pretty good.
Turn around, would you? Sorry, bro, yeah.
You can start here if you want to.
Okay.
This is the beans. We call them shirt tail risers. Some fellows call them musical fruit, you know. And you never see much of that in the early days either, cheese, you know. But plenty of peas and saltfish, you know, hard bread, pea soup, beans, fish and brews. Because you couldn't keep, you know, it either had to be dried or salted, you know. Because this time you take the Dana of 24, 25 degrees, you know. What could you do with fresh meat, you know?
Exactly. There's no deep bridges back there.
No. So this is your molasses cake.
Yeah, right.
And that's your Robin Hood flour. And flour used to come in barrels. You see, there's a flour barrel there. And that's the tea chest. And that's the pork barrel. And there's the water hoop there, carrying water. You fellas know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's for carrying water. This is the yoke here. See, this will go up. See that little groove in that up there fit around your neck? And you carry 2 buckets of water with that,
Oh,
see?
yes.
They used to call that the yoke. But mostly that I ever used was just the hoop, see? And those days are gone.
Yeah. Next one, like that.
Come out to shave here, you know. So you'd have a pile of wood here too, you see? You know, now the reason why we had to put this here, this is plywood there.
Yeah.
Used to have a few break-ins, you know. So we had to put this big door there. And this boot troll, those are the bog hoppers, those old boots. And this tub here, filled with water. And then the men wash off the mud off of their boots before they come in the bunkhouse. Hello.
Hi.
Filled up in the evening time for the men when they come out of the bush. So I say you were the first man come in, you had a drink. Every man used the 1 mug. All tobacco juice and all this old stuff. You didn't mind that stuff. Honey sweet. Every man drank from the 1 mug. All this was tobacco juice.
Oh, wonderful.
I've had people here 103 years old, 97, 89. That was it. That was their life.
Yeah.
And this is a water barrel. Now sometimes if there was 40, 50, 60 men in a camp, this bucket of water wouldn't last too long, you see. So I comes in, I hits the bottom. And all this where you're dipping down the wash pans, you see, to wash your face and that. All this is yellow scum, all this around here. The hell with that. Down the hatch. Let her go for the gullies. Let her go for the gullies. Fellas didn't mind. And this is a hand slide. The cookies in the wintertime, he'd put 2 sticks here, you see, and put the barrel on there and go down to the lake and haul up barrels of water. So we used to use them when I was a young fellow. We used to use them with a couple of dogs hauling out firewood. And this is where you'd wash. This was the facilities. This is where you had your bath. So anyway, you know, you go over, probably somewhere you have to get the ice now to break the ice. You know. That sloughs into the water. So anyway, this summer, they were cutting in a camp. And the brook, the stream dried up. We never had any rain for a long, long time. So, now down to the lake was a long ways away, and the cookies, he'd have to fill the barrel, this one here. Then he'd have to carry water for the cookhouse, which they used a lot of water. So the old man came out in the bunkhouse. He said, all hands here? Yes, sir, we're all here. He said, I want 10 men to wash in the 1 water till we have rain. So I happened to be the last one, so I said, well, I will wash it. Everybody washed in the 10 men. Then you dump it out after 10 men washed, and then you fill it up again. Another 10 men washed it. Everybody was crawling with lice. This was a part of life. There was 2 men here, 2 there, and bunks right around, 40, 50 bunks. This is only just a small camp, you see. Never any floor under the bunkhouse. So if you got in the winter time and, you know, my God, what a night in the garden, eh? Lice, eh? So you took off your socks, you know, and they were wet. You hung them up and happened to have the misfortune that they fell on the ground during the night. Uh-oh, so you pick them up off the ground. That's where they're frozen onto the moss, you see. So you put one here and one sock there for about 20 minutes till they thaw out, and then you put them on and go on down in the woods again. See anybody doing that today? Not likely. And that's the little round sticks there that we call lungers. And that's for the bottom of the bed, you see. Same way as put on a fishing flake, lungers. This is a Samson. This is a pole here. If you're cutting down a tree, and the tree comes back a bit, and you can't get your saw out, your blade, just take your time, cut a long pole, and put up under a limb and push. And that tree got to fall. But if you did have a problem this way, and he's still rocking back and forth, you just take your time. This is what you do. You say, you know, Mr. Tree, you're going to go this time. I can guarantee you that. There you are. Now, mister, that's as good as a tractor. She got to go. Tree goes back. You take out your saw. So you do the same thing with a chainsaw, you know.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's what we call a Samson. And this is where the love stories will be told. Eh? You're waiting your wife about 8 and 9 months. See? This is where, you know, say, what your brother, see, you know, his brother might run over to visit his missus. You know, I hope Jared's is not over to the house tonight. I got the youngsters keeping an eye on Jared's. And this, like I say, this is where you hang up your clothes. And lice, my God, even the lice were lousy. This is your stove. This is where you pile up your wood, firewood. And this is old skin boots with the rubber soles sewed on. They're over, oh my heavens, the gentleman that donated those, I haven't got his name now, but it's out in St. John's. They were 80 years old then when he donated those about 14, 15 years ago. And this is a boot jack. Taking off your boots. What a night in the garden. Yep. That's for taking off. Now those little spikes up here, they are called sled cocks. Those little things. So when we go over here, I'll tell you about it. I'll explain them to you. You hang up an odd shirt, you see. An old switch there. Look, we never had that in the woods when we were little. Try to camouflage that, see. So anyway, those pictures were taken in 1926. You can see how large the camps were. You see, this is the alleyway here, look. See that little thing out there is the alleyway. Now we're in the bunkhouse, right?
Yeah.
And the bunkhouse is built on here, so you can see how very, very large the camps were. At 60, I worked in camps where there's 120 men. And this is the way that you stack your wood. We call it stump piling. And then you went in when the lakes froze over with the horses, and you haul it out to the frozen lakes. And this is a potlatch, more like a snowshoe. When we get big falls of snow, it'd probably stay for, you wouldn't do any hauling that day. The horses tramp down roads, you see. And what was I going to tell you about those little spikes? Those little spikes, you come closer so you can see those little spikes here.
Yeah.
That's for when the horse moved and she hit those yes ma'ams, you know. It helped to keep the wood on, you see. Because if you put this wood here just on the sticks right icy, as soon as you move, it'll be all gone.
That's right.
Now what they do with this here, see this is gone, right? So you'd sew that, you know, get a bit of Winsor, fellas on the bunks, you know. Everybody had a darn needle in that, eh? Darn these mitts and everything. But sometimes the heels would go. right?
Yeah.
And there's not much more you could do with them. They'd darn them and darn them, you know. So anyway, we'd do this, look, what they call jackknife. Turn them up here like that. Put the heel up here, see? And your foot. And then use this for the heel, see? Put that up. This is what we call jackknife. See, the heel part would be up here, see?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what
yeah.
you call jackknife your socks.
Yeah.
This is the Deacon seat. Very easy to make. It's just a log chopped down and then you bore 4 holes and that's it. After making several of them for people.
Well, I guess we'll move out.
£100, I believe the animal was. And the reason why the blacksmith welded this here, if he didn't, the horse was that heavy that the shoe would twist. So he welded a piece here, see, just to keep it level with the horse's hoof, see? This is a small pony shoe here. And most of this stuff here, what you see here is harness for the horses. This is the hames, which goes on to the horse collar. You people know that anyway. This is what we were talking about over there, the horse snowshoe, but I never seen that used. This is the oxen yoke. And this is the curry comb. Now over there in the other place we call it a horse comb. Some people call them curry combs. Now this is a box saddle. This was never used in the lumberwood as I know for. I never seen it. But around town years ago in the 20s and 30s and 40s, they used to haul coal around to each house. And they used to have this on the horse's shoulders. That's the 2-wheel cart, and you'd have a half a ton of coal in the cart. See, when the horse is going uphill, this would act as a padding, shoulder padding, you know, because there'd be a chain going through here too, you see, on the 2 shafts. And as the horse is straining, you know, this is helping to, because if you only had just a bit of chain there or something, go right through the horse.
That's right, yeah.
So you had to have a padding. And this is the sweat pad. That one there. This is the short leather tugs used on drays mostly. This is the leather traces. You know, mostly everybody used chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is called a stitching horse. This is where I'm going now. I'll show you. See, you went down in the bush and you turn around and you happen to rip the leather, you know, tear things, you know, probably the horse collar is torn by the end of the shaft or something. So this had to be sewed, right? So you sit here, take down your horse collar, put it in there. There's a vise, you see? Now, take your time, get dull, and sew it. So if you got tired sitting down, then you turn around and you stand up, sew it. And then you wanted to light the old pipe or have a chew of tobacco, you take your time. It's there in the stand anyway, in the vise. And you go around here and check it over. See that there's no more rips in it. Finish it off, you know. So that's what we call a stitching horse. And this is the pony collar. So we have the large collar over there for probably about a 1,600-pound horse.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be much good if you had 13,000 cord of wood to haul to the lakes by the last of October.
No.
So you'd have 28 horses, you know, in the barn. And you get up in the morning in the bunkhouse, it's so cold, eh? You'd rush over here then in the barn to get warm. The heat from the horses. And you sit down there by it. You know, the hay and everything was there, but you sat down and had your smoke with the pipe and that, you know.
Yeah.
Never any horses I know of.
No.
That's the horse harness. And that's the whipple tree in there. That's the roller. And the hames and that. That's just part of a horse harness here. Those are the things that's the roller that goes on the sled. And this is the spreader. Some people call them a whipple tree. Now this bathtub here, one lady said, how do you get a horse in that tub? I said, not easy. See what they do, you were down in the woods and the horse happened to cut his hoof. So it's bleeding now, so you had to get up with your horse, see? So you go in the cookhouse then, you get some boiling water, and you put in the pan and bathe the hoof. But if the hoof got infected after a couple of days, then you'd ask the cook to cook 2 turnip for you. Turnip. Then you mash them up and put them in a rag like a poultice and put it around, and turnip will take out all the poison. So a lot of people don't know that.
That's the first time I heard it, yeah.
That will take out the poison. If you've got a cut and it gets festered, first thing your mother will say, well, we'll get a bit of homemade bread, now dry the homemade bread and get that dry out. But you'll find that turnip is better again.
Oh, yeah.
We're so strong.
Yeah.
Because you're eating turnip, you know it's strong, right?
That's right, yeah.
The gases in it, see? Now in the early days, they had the barn was built onto the back of the bunkhouse. See? Oh, they were monstrosity of buildings, because you take just the barn alone.
That's right, yeah.
30 horses, you know. Then you had to have your feed here, your hay. Every horse was looked after, boy.
Yeah.
I heard talk that some fellows in the camps was a bit cruel, but I didn't see it.
No.
I never seen it. I can't see anybody abusing the animal anyway, you know. But they tell me that there was cruel people.
Yeah.
Some fellows, you know. Well, it's like it everywhere, I guess, even
That's right.
today, you know.
Yeah. You could scatter one of
Yeah.
them.
I mean, that little animal, or that, you know, they can't say, well, you're hurting me, or what are you doing that for,
That's right.
you know. And this is why the man is doing it to the animal. The animal can't talk back, or,
That's right.
you know,
I can't fight back.
can't fight back, see?
It's fine. Okay, Mike.
Years ago. So they're very old now, you know. And that's the old anvil. And that's the blacksmith tongs in there, you know. It's 22 tongs in there. So here on the museum, you know, there's 22 tongs in there, right? And they're very easy to take off, you see?
That's right, yeah.
So if there's 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 people, you know, say the student is giving a tour, then that's fine, you know. Now maybe he'll forget, you know, I got to come down and check again. I got to count them, make sure that there's 22 tongs there, you know. I got to see that everything, this is why they had me responsible for the whole museum, you see. Now mostly, I donated this building. I gave them this, government, and I donated all that stuff there outside and all that there. I gave them all that, but I didn't give them the billows or the anvil, you know. But you know, everything makes it look good, don't it, boy?
Oh, I do.
Yeah. So this is our Newfoundland history. It's mostly for tractor sleds, see?
Yeah.
All tractors. But the blacksmith, he was a busy man too, boy, because he had to, he made the horseshoes, he shoed the horses, he repaired, a lot of those blacksmiths repaired the sleds too. Now,
Yeah.
some camps had a sled repair man, eh? But what I'm after now, if I can get the few logs, is put up a sled repair shack there, up there, you see? Because you always had a sled repair shack. And if I can get, make an old sink there, you know, where the cookies would dump the old grub and the beers would be there, you know. And hopefully I got a chance to get a mounted beer, see?
Oh, yeah.
So I can put them out all day long, and in the evening time I can put it under lock and key, see? So trying to make it as lifelike as you can.
That's right, yeah.
But this here, this is actual because everything was in it was used.
Yeah.
Right from 1915, you know.
Yeah.
From the buck saw to the chainsaw. And like I said, the men today are working hard, boy. Guarantee you, I don't. Some people come here and say they got it easy today. I said, ma'am, I'm sorry. I got to have a little talk to you. Men haven't got it easy.
No.
No way. I mean, we fellas are here now, and we're just going around. And we find it warm.
That's right.
Imagine in among them trees, and the
Yeah.
flies, and
Okay, Mike.
cord and a half. Good road, you take a couple of cords, you know. If you got a good road by, good solid, hard road. You can take a lot of wood. You wouldn't hurt the animal
No.
either. Both animals are strong. I don't know if you've seen Land and Sea or no.
Yeah, I watched Land and Sea, yeah.
Yeah, see the horses, you know.
Yeah.
They worked hard. Now you notice that this one here has the steel shoes. That's the winter sleds, you see?
Yeah.
You got the steel shoes on the runners. But this one here,
Okay. One second. You usually like it, right?
yeah, this is the bobsled. See, you notice that there's no steel runners on there. See your steel shoes? It's all wood, you see?
Yeah.
So then you could take your horse and jig down to there anywhere tall and haul up a few long sticks if you're building a little building or something, see? Use in the summertime, but you'd hardly ever haul any pulpwood with it, you know. Just to go there, put your horse in it and go down and cut a few long sticks. You take up 2 or 3 sticks, all according, you know, you wouldn't want to overwork the animal or
No.
anything. On the drives, you know, you go to the camp, and first couple of 3 weeks you had to go on the drive, you know. When I used to go out of the lakes, you know, you drive it downstream, 4 or 5 men in that with pike poles, see? You know, just letting the wood run down. It runs down with the tide anyway, you know. And sometimes the wood come down and tumble straight up against the boat, but you see, that's 3.5 inches thick, that plank, eh?
Yeah.
That's why they were built like that, see?
I don't guess there's too many of those riverboats left around.
No, there might be, but just the frame just, you know, rotted away, eh? So we happen to be fortunate enough to get that one. I would say she's between 70 and 80 years old. So I treat her every year with wood preserver, twice a year. In the spring when I come on and before I'm laid off, I treat it. And then I come up with an idea. See, I had her upright first, you see? And there was a lot of people getting in her, you know, and taking pictures and that. Well, that was fine, but there was too many people because she was getting damaged, you see?
Yeah.
So we turn her bottom up, and then we put this little thing up there, little house like so she can't get wet. And she's in good shape, you know.
Now, is this what they call the Monkstown dory?
Yeah, that's it, sir, yeah.
Because
It's like a boat in, see?
I know there's a guy from Deer Lake got a museum set up in Irish Harbour,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he got one brought down there. He got in Monkstown, and that's what he called her, the Monkstown dory, and she's the same shape as that one. That's why I asked
That's
that.
it, Monkstown Dory, yes, boy. Yeah. Now the Frenchman called her a bateau, you know,
Yeah.
but that's what she is, the dory, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, mate. Down here with us to do this for our Come Home year on our community channel. And I understand that you got a museum of your own.
Yes, I have a very large museum. I got one building 60 feet long and 20 feet wide. That's full. And then I had to build another place, and I got 500 things in that, you know. So if you people get a chance, you're welcome to come up and have a look at it.
Well, we definitely will. When the Come Home year is over and we get a free day, we'll be up and get you to go through it with us.
Yeah.